Hey, welcome back. I want to talk about, well, how doing things in order, how one thing leads to another. And a lot of people can't understand why I put so much emphasis on some very basic stuff. Well, what a lot of people would consider very basic stuff. And, well, it probably is because there's some horses around here that are extraordinarily well trained for specialized disciplines that I wouldn't have a clue how to even begin training them, to be quite honest. But I do know how to do things in order. And it's something that frequently doesn't get done, and that's why I put so much emphasis on it, and that's why this whole video is going to be about that very topic. Well, for example, I just finished watering down the arena here to control the dust in here. In order to do that, I needed a hose to water it, right? Well, not really, a lot more than that. Needed a nozzle on that hose too. Also needed a source of water. Well, in the case of this place, we've got like 6 months of sub-zero temperatures. So we actually have a no-freeze hydrant, specifically a no-freeze hydrant out here that we can use. Well, in order to even have that installed, they had to dig a trench all the way through the arena, past the other side out to the old barn, and tie into the water out there. Well, that water is also tied into the water at the house. And that water comes from another line. Well, before you can even water the arena, there's got to be water in the house. So how many different stages has all this gone through before we can water the arena and take care of the dust problem in here? Quite a few. Well, same problem occurs with horses, and I have to admit I make this mistake a lot of times, assuming that people are at a certain stage or they do things the way I do or know what I know, and which honestly really isn't that much, but apparently it's a lot more than a lot of people. But the way I do things, and I was, last few videos would probably be an example of that too, because when somebody asked me how to address a problem, and this has come up again recently around here, somebody would ask how to deal with a certain problem, and I would assume that they already had done the 3 steps ahead of that so they could address it. No, it's kind of like, how do I put the windows in a building I haven't even built yet? Well, that's the way it is with the horses, and that's why it's like, I emphasize things like catching your horse. Because unless you can actually catch the horse, you cannot do a darn thing. And there are people that think that's rudimentary, bottom, beginning, way back there stuff that we don't need to worry about. Well, you know what? I've watched people that have been riding horses for years, and I can think of one specific example even recently around here. Somebody said, oh, that horse was hard to catch their whole life. Well, that was because he was allowed to be hard to catch his whole life, and nobody bothered to teach him how to be caught and things like that. And, well, that just means that they're probably overlooking a lot of other things as well, and they've probably got problems in a lot of other areas. This goes on many different things. Another perfect example, in a recent video I did about getting a horse to stand still for the farrier. That also applies for picking up its feet, for grooming, saddling, and all these other things. Well, unless you can actually send your horse to be able to send it off so that it will want to come back and stand still, well, you can't fix the problem of it not standing still if you can't send it. You need a tool to do a job, and you can't do that job without that tool. And, if you don't put that tool in place ahead of time, you're never going to do the next job. It's like, well, I got to go do a job, but in order to do that job, I need my car to get there. But before I can get there, I've got to fix my car. But before I can fix my car, I've got to buy the tool to be able to fix the car. This is a perfect example of how You got to back up 10 steps to be able to do something. And people just aren't doing that, don't understand that. They want to fix this problem that's there in front of them, and it's like, sorry, you can't fix that. You got to back up 3 steps before you can even think about fixing it, because the horse doesn't know what it needs to know to be able to fix that. You've never taught him. You don't even know it. You can't expect the horse to know it if you don't know it. But it's, like I said, if you can't do something as simple as catching your horse, you aren't going to be able to do much of anything else. So back up, start at the beginning. Never mind worrying about, hey, you know, when I'm riding my horse, it does such and such. Never mind that stuff. What does the horse do before you even get on it? There's an awful lot of stuff that needs to be addressed before you even get on the horse. And if it's not really good, it doesn't really matter what's happening on the horse, because you can't fix it anyhow. Because you're going to have to get off that horse, get back on the ground to fix the actual problem before you get back on that horse. Because the problem that you're having while you're on the horse really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're on the horse. That problem starts 10 steps back when you're on the ground doing something with it. And it's something that the horse has always gotten away with, or something that has learned inadvertently that leads to the behavior when you're riding it. And you're not trying to fix behavior while it's being ridden. And that's the mistake a lot of people, and I make the assumption that people understand this stuff, and because it's a mentality that I've applied to a lot of things long before I ever played with horses. When it comes to troubleshooting problems, is, I back up and look at the symptoms and back up to the one before that, and then the one before that, until we finally figure out what the actual problem is. And I've tried to explain that many times in my videos, and the same is true with horses all the time. You got to back up. What's really the problem? Is it something that's happening while you're trying to ride the horse? Nope. No, it's something that's been happening for a very long time that you didn't really notice was wrong until you started riding the horse. Then the problem really manifested itself in a very undesirable and potentially even scary or dangerous way. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got a problem. No, you always had that problem. That problem's been around for a very long time. And so I said, you can't get the horse to stand still if you can't make it move. That also happens to be one of the very early things that you teach the horse. Now, the send itself is a little more elaborate than the initial movements, but the initial movements are very basic and something that comes not long after you catch the horse, then lead it, and then you teach it to move different directions, different speeds. Once you've got all that stuff working, you've got the send. But there's all that other stuff that comes before the send, and the send comes before you get the horse to stand still for all the other things you want to do, including getting on it, because you can't even get on the horse unless it's had proper groundwork and training done. So do things in order. Make a point of what tool really is needed to do the job. In fact, what is the job that you actually need to do? These are things that as I said, I put an awful lot of emphasis on the basics, groundwork, stuff that takes place before you even get on the horse, because the stuff that comes after that, it really doesn't matter if the stuff before it isn't any good, or good enough, or thorough enough, or all of it's there, or, there's a lot, man. Let me tell you, there is a lot before you get on that horse. And in fact, I probably even take it a little further than some guys do, to the point where by the time you get on, the horse already knows how to be ridden and just hasn't been ridden yet. So anyhow, that's kind of my spiel for today, is don't bother worrying about what's happening. Well, I guess this is kind of related to that. One other video I did not long ago where I said, never mind what happened, figure out why it happened. Well, in this case, the why it happened really doesn't have anything to do with the fact you're on the horse. It has to do with something that happened long before you ever got on. Do things in order, be thorough, cover everything, don't skip anything, don't move on until the step ahead is completely and thoroughly adequate. Otherwise, when you do get down the road, you are going to have problems. And that is why so many people are having problems with their horses in the saddle. And I've seen some very unruly horses that people are riding, and it's like, to me, it's pretty clear where the problem lies, and it has nothing to do with them being on the horse. It's all the stuff they skipped on the ground because they were in a big hurry to get on the horse, which is a very common problem, and I did a video on that years ago too. It's the biggest mistake that we make is getting in a hurry to ride. That's the number one mistake, and actually not just to ride. Well, that's probably the biggest one, but it's a mistake we make everywhere, doing everything, not just horses, but yeah, it's a big problem with horses. We get in a hurry to do stuff, start skipping stuff, or do it ineffectively. It's not done completely, and then somewhere down the line we have problems, and we think that's where the problem is. It's way down the line. No, it's not. Back up, back up, back up. Anyhow, that's my ramble and rant for the day. Hope it helps you, because take a look at what your problem is, and is that really where the problem even is, or is it something way further back, that maybe something that wasn't done real well or something you missed? And with that bit of knowledge, go out and spend some time with your horse and see where's that problem really, and if I got all those tools and places that I need to do the job. Have a good day.